Okay, I did something on lichens regarding useful books, and this one is pretty good. I've had it since the 90s, and it actually has a key in it for mosses uh, that I think is quite useful. That's a liverwort on the cover. This is a interesting one. British Columbia has a lot of diversity, um, and it has some line drawings certainly, and some keys, and a number of things. So, and species list, which is nothing to sneeze at. Um, the Northeast is another kind of picture book sort of thing. Some actually very good pictures in it. The thing about mosses is they tend to be scattered, so they might be in this valley, but not necessarily in the next. So I think it's got some nice biology and stuff, and some marginal keys. Go up another step here. Mosses of Utah in the West. Is probably one of the more sophisticated books that actually has line drawings and then some descriptions. Um, it's got some serious keys in it. You can actually identify them, and you can actually look things up. But he's decided that this is a valid way of finding things. You need to find 21.267, and so you look those up, and it's like, well, there you go. So that paragraph. But Utah is very much like Colorado as far as that goes, and so this is a reasonable book, and it's got some good drawings, but the drawings give you some idea of that in order to identify them, you have to pluck the leaves off the plants, put them on a slide, and in some cases you need to cut them in half. And so in order to do that, you need a binocular scope. This one goes up to 30 power, and you get them wet, and then you put them on a cover, a slide. You don't let's say you need a cover slip because the leaves tend to curl often in many species. And then you put them onto a compound scope. And so this is a modified advanced student, that's in quotes. I replaced the headpiece and some of the lenses because I was doing some chromosome work. But I'm immediately finding 100 power or more. In some cases, quite a bit more. But 100 power is pretty good. You do the cutting here on the slide on wet leaves with a there's the scalpel blade, and that'll give you a cross cut that you can look at. And because some moss families have distinctive characteristics. And this one you'd think would be the bee's knees. This book is written by these guys, and in an effort to make things exceedingly difficult, it doesn't have any index, so the only way you can identify things is necessarily by knowing the plant family the moss belongs to. Mosses belong to, there's a number of plant families, it's not just one plant family. And then you go to that, there's liverworts here too. Then you go to that plant family, and then you work your way through the key. what's good about this. I mean, what I do is I go back and forth, so I might start there and end here. Actually, I might even start over here and work my way through. So identifying things using a couple of different types of keys. It's not necessarily unusual. So this does is reduces it down to relatively few species, and it makes things a little bit easier. And let's see, pictures are in the back for the most part. Oh, I might be totally wrong on that. No, we don't feel the overwhelming need to put in pictures either. So I thought there were at least a couple, but the flowers does. This guy does. And then you go back and forth, and so an example might be Bryophytes, in which is very burgundy-ish. Well, very burgundy in Columbia River Gorge and Key Perpetual, Oregon, but it's silvery and coppery here. So I had to pluck off the leaves and compare them. So it's something of a challenge because sometimes mosses will have, and I can't illustrate with that, mosses will have, oh, again, it's probably, let's see if I can do this. Polytrichum, it has this is a cross-section of the leaf, and has these, let's call them hairs, they're more almost like gills that come up here, and this acts as more surface area for photosynthesis. That's a cross-section of the whole leaf, and it's very indicative of this particular plant family that these mosses go to. This is a moss that's used in Japanese gardens a lot, and it's quite robust. It can get up to 30 centimeters tall. But anyway, it's to illustrate these things. I think it's very useful, because if you were to actually look at a real picture, you wouldn't necessarily see these structures without a lot of magnification. So it's like any other plant family. It has its own specialized vocabulary, and you need the right books for the right areas, and then you can work yourself forward. Not the easiest group of plants. I find a lot of biologists tend to be quite eccentric people. Actually, same with mosses, or same with lichens. But anyway, I think this is useful, but again, these guys really seem to make things as difficult as possible at times. I'm surprised it's not in Latin, but anywho's, so these are some of the books. So, any description really should fit what you're looking at, and that's my thought. Those are a few thoughts on books.